Welcome home. We provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Vicki Antonio here with me today. How you doing, Vicki?
Hey, Cedric. I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing quite well, quite well. I like your setup back there with the columns and the books. Looks very, very, very elite.
Thank you. It's an old part of an office that I used to have, and my daughter painted it all white, and it looks great now.
Right. We are here to have a conversation about your journey and the work that you do today, and I'm excited to have it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are tuning in, I'd like for you to tag or text someone who could benefit from a positive, inspirational story from a strong individual. And so I look forward to your comments, your questions, and thoughts this morning. Good morning, Scott, and good morning, Yolanda. We already have people coming into the building.
Awesome.
Tell us about where you're from.
I'm originally from Germany. I was born there. I came to the United States as a toddler. Well, yeah, as a toddler. My dad was in the military.
Wow.
But I've been in Florida long enough to consider myself a native.
Okay. So you were born in Germany. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. The funny thing about it though is I didn't know that I was German until I was 10.
Why is that?
Well, when we came to the United States, I think I was like 2.5 when we came to the United States, my mom and dad. And my dad went right away to Vietnam. And there, while he was there, my mom passed away. So I was still little, like not even, I don't think I was even 3, or I don't think I was 4, maybe 2 and 3.5. Mm-hmm. And so my dad came back after for the funeral to bury my mom and everything. And she had a friend who was also German, married to a soldier, African-American soldier. And so she volunteered to take me, and my dad left me with her. But when he got back from Vietnam, he found out that I was no longer with these people. I was actually with a whole nother set of people. And that at the time we were in Colorado. When he got back, I was in Louisiana.
Wow. Now, how did that happen? And this is a military man, so I'm sure he was upset. Like, where's my daughter?
Well, I mean, I when I think about it too, is he was a military man, but he was also 20. I think he was like 23 or 24 years old.
Okay.
So at that age, having lost his wife, these people it was a couple and they couldn't have kids and they wanted to adopt me. So I'm not sure. I think he was going to allow the adoption process to happen. Okay. But what ended up happening is he started dating this lady who herself had 4 children already. Okay. And at that time, adoptions were done from one person to another. And sometimes people would renege on the adoption.
Wow. So it was like a verbal adoption, maybe?
Well, sometimes back then it was new. Adoptions were fairly new. I mean, people would just get a lawyer, do the paperwork, and that was it. But the paperwork wasn't real strong. So sometimes a parent could change their mind and come back and get their kid. So the laws changed and they required that the parent give up their parental rights and the kid go into the foster system, like into the system of the government. Right. Mm-hmm. And then the person, like if there was a set of parents who wanted a particular kid, it wasn't guaranteed if they were going to get them or not.
Okay.
Now they're in a pool of kids. Mm-hmm. So when he told that to the lady he was dating, she told him absolutely not. Do not do that because you don't know where she's going to end up. These people might be nice, but they might not get her. So they ended up getting married and they came and got me. And then that's when I was blessed with an extended family with 4 other siblings.
So you kind of landed in a family with 4 other siblings. So now you became a sibling group of 5. Yep. With a whole new life scenario.
Totally. From one day to the next, a whole new scenario.
Okay. And what state were you in?
When they picked me up, I was in Louisiana. We moved to Colorado. Then from there, we went to Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, right. We went to Fort Knox.
So at a young age, you were already moving around from place to place. You were already on the go.
Oh yeah, every 3 years, my dad had a new assignment, so we had to go. And as a family, you just went. It's definitely a unique career.
Talk to us about how that feels and how you manage with a military father, traveling from one place to another, and the family having to travel with the father or the mother for that matter. What's that adjustment like? That constant adjustment?
Yeah, for kids, kids are resilient. However, it develops unique characteristics. So there's good and there's bad. So for example, the good was that, we got to travel. We met people from all walks of life very early, because in the military, there's always mixed families, blended families, interracial families, people themselves who traveled a lot. So people were very more open-minded, more accepting. So we had that going on. So there was never any sort of, racism, no issues like that we could see. Then also too, the military had a lot for children to do. So we had rec centers and parks and great schools and all that kind of stuff. And that all was fun. But then the downside was, you made a friend, and when you left, you more than likely were never going to see them again.
Right.
So, and then I just recently, as an adult, figured out that my challenges in education, because I used to think I was retarded, to be honest with you, or God, I think that's not a good word. I used to think that I was unable to learn effectively. Okay. Wow. And what I found out was I was talking to a lady who had done a study on migrant workers' children who moved around.
Okay. Talk about it.
Only to find out that when you move around, nobody assesses where you are in your academic place, right? So you get to a school, you may be in math, blah, blah, blah. At this school, you travel to another state, another school. It could even be in your same city at another school, but nobody assesses where you are. They just plunk you down in class and you just have to figure it out.
Right.
So for a lot of time, that's why now I read everything I get my hands on and self-educate, because when I was younger, I got nothing. Like I literally thought that I had to learn, that I couldn't learn. So I mean, people would raise their hands in class, and I'd be like, "Where'd they get the answer from?" Because I don't.
When did they talk about this?
I just learned. Listen, I found that out when I was 45 years old.
Wow.
I didn't know it as a young person, or else I think I probably would have done more academically, which I didn't. I didn't go as far as I probably could have academically, although I'm a constant student now as an adult. I'm actually studying right now. I'm studying for my GC license right now, but I'm always learning, studying. You see my library back here. This is just part of it. But I'm always reading because that's where it's at. They say if you want to hide something from somebody, put it in a book. So I'm always looking to find it.
And it sounds like at a young age, you learned how to start over and how to deal with the anxiety of starting over. And you also started to figure out how to take control of your own life.
Well, you have to learn how to adapt, because the thing is that your parents, your parents are trying to figure things out. I had a mother who, she herself didn't have a whole lot. She wasn't given a whole lot from her family. And what I found out later on is when I got in the 4th grade, we were living, I think we had gone back to Germany at this point. I was in the 4th grade and found out that she couldn't read. And so as a result of that, I helped her with all the managing the household, writing the checks, contacting the creditors, all that kind of stuff. So I started doing that really early.
Hold up. So you were talking to creditors, writing checks, and dealing with household stuff in the 4th grade.
Oh yeah, which was awesome, because I also had my parents' signatures down pat and went to any field trip I wanted to go to.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think that too helped me with my business acumen. I was already doing adult things as a young person, so I didn't have a problem talking to adults, which was a good and a bad thing, because if adults wanted to, there's some adults who take advantage of kids.
Yeah.
And I was one of those kids who had I'd talk back and stand my ground, probably out of order sometimes, but it was because I was already dealing with adult matters, which is what happens nowadays with young people. There's children that are dealing with adult issues, and people wonder, well, how come they're so slick at the mouth, and how come they're so this, that, and the other? Well, listen, they're dealing with adult stuff already. They're not kids anymore in that sense.
That's
They have
right.
the ability. And then two, when you're an adult who wants to take advantage of a kid by telling them something that, people would I'd find people always give me advice that they wouldn't give to their own kids.
That's right.
Because a lot of times I'd be the kid there dealing with stuff on my own, not with the parents around. So people would want to, mistreat you or take advantage of those things and give you advice that may not be best suited for you when you might not know the answer because you're not there yet as a kid, but you know that what they're telling you is not right.
Right. Because they're telling you to just deal with the short end of the stick, or they're telling you, that's just the way life is when you see people living different types of lives right around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I definitely see.
Right, because just because a kid doesn't know yet, just because they're not educated, just because they seem like they're in a position right now where they're impoverished, it doesn't mean that they don't have potential, that they don't have dreams, that they don't have goals, that they don't have the ability. What they need is they need support.
That's right.
Which is why I became an advocate for kids. I'm always talking to kids or young people in general. I'm always talking to them and giving them. I overdo it probably. I give them too much information, but I also do it because nobody gave it to me.
Well, I'm going to say this. I spent years of my life in foster care. Shout out to my mom who's in the building right now, Yolanda Riley. And I've grown to totally love adults like you. People who pour into the younger generation. People who say, let me give you some of my life experience. Let me embrace you. Let me meet you where you are. And let me give you a piece of my mind. I love people like you. It's people like you that pique a young person's interest into the fact that life can be so much more. And without people like you, young people will think, oh, I've just got to deal with the short end of the stick. Come to find out, a young person who thinks that they have to deal with the short end of the stick, they start cutting themselves.
Yes.
They start lashing out on other people. They start running away, putting themselves in unsafe situations.
Yes.
Some kids run away. And in their immature mentality, because they have not had enough conversations with people like you, some of these young people, they run away and get killed.
That's where they get preyed upon, because people recognize the kid who doesn't have support.
Exactly.
The person who is a predator, they see it a mile away. So when a kid doesn't have a covering, is what I call it, they get manipulated that way.
We have 444,000 youth in the foster care system today. Can you take a few seconds? Can you take a few seconds and provide some encouragement to you, being that they're dealing with some of the same things you dealt with? Go ahead.
Well, listen, for those of you who are listening now who are in foster care system, one thing I want to tell you is, I know that there are days that you feel sad and you feel down because you're in that situation and there's things you lack and that you don't have a parent. But let me tell you something. The Bible says that God will be a father to the fatherless. God just needed to get you to earth. He didn't care about who your parents were. As a matter of fact, once your mom and dad put you here, he took over from there because he promised to be your father. And in him, there's nothing missing and there's nothing broken. And there's a place in him that you can go to and get all your needs met and get strategy for your next life. Because first of all, God gives us gifts and he gives us talents. And he brings us to earth for us to have a place to put those seed in the ground and grow. And so there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that you're missing and there's nothing that you're lacking. What you need to do, though, is find somebody who can, first of all, you have mentors all around you right now. You might not like them. They might be a little harsh, but they're teaching you something that's going to give you good character. Those people who are working in the foster system, you have teachers. One thing I always tell my kids is teachers like to teach. If you go to school and let your teacher know that you want to learn, that's going to be your best friend. Those are the people that will walk you through your education. The guidance counselors are there that help you make sure that you get to college. Your education and your career choices are going to open doors of opportunity for you. And then you can exchange your time for money. And that's how you can actually make it. You don't have to hustle. You don't got to go sell no dope. You don't have to sell your body. What you do is you can do legitimate because God's already placed in you everything that you need. You just need to gather all, because one thing is I'm a firm believer that when there is chaos, it doesn't mean that you're lacking. It means that all your pieces are out of order. Chaos means disorder. It means everything that you have to make your life great just needs to be put together. So all you need is somebody to help you put those pieces in together, the puzzle, so that you can see the big picture of who you actually are. And when you look in the mirror called the Bible, it will show you who you are, because God calls you a champion. He says that you're the head and not the tail, that you are above only and never beneath, that you are more than a conqueror, that he sees you as the apple of his eye, and that he actually died for you because he thinks that you're so awesome and you're so great, that he wants to be with you till eternity. So when you really know who you are, that you are a victor and you are not a victim, then you will rise up out of any situation that you are in and become great.
When did you start to realize the gifts that you had?
You know, I kind of early, really early, because of all the abandonment, you know, with my dad being taken to war, my mom dying, and then all the bouncing around. I became very in tune spiritually very early.
Right.
And then my mother's when my mom would send us to my grandmother's in Florida, and my grandmother was a pastor.
Okay.
And I probably at that time was probably like 6 or 7. So we would go there every summer. And then I started to, well, I first had to make amends with, you know, why my biological mom was no longer here. Because, you know, you go through that period of being angry, which is what I know a lot of kids do when they lose a parent, or they don't have a parent, or they lack the things that they need, that they look around and see other people who they feel like are whole and they don't have. You develop this anger. And I was so angry.
I also want to include that anger for some people goes into adulthood, and so we have adults out here who are still angry at what happened when they were a child.
Yes.
And what you're saying today is that you need to go back and revisit that.
Mm-hmm. Everything has to be revisited. And I tell you what, 2020 is a great time to do it, because this year came to reset us, to make us look at us.
Okay.
You know, where everything had to stop and it was just you with you, or you with your family, which are probably also where some things need to get reset, or you with your emotional selves, because you're so frustrated that you don't have a lot of control right now. But it's going to bring up anger. And what happens is we're faced with issues that bring up the things in us that we need to deal with. And if you don't deal with it, it's like going to class. If you don't pass the test, you got to take the class over.
Right.
And life will do the same thing. So yeah, this is a great time to deal with stuff. I mean, listen, I'm dealing with my own stuff right now.
Right.
You know? Because I want to grow. It's not a negative. It's because you want to get past this point. Mm-hmm. Because there's more. God always has more.
So at this time in your life, your intuition began to kick in. Your subconscious got a little bit louder, because now God is coming in and helping you move forward in your life. And so this manifests into you being able to excel in school despite the odds. What were some of your successes in school as you transitioned throughout the grades?
Well, I mean, early on, I always loved people, and I love learning. So when I would ask a lot of questions, I'd always be around things that were unfamiliar to me. Obviously, that came from the way we were raised. You know, to walk in any situation was never anything intimidating. So I got comfortable being uncomfortable, let's say. And so I was very social, because I wasn't academic, so I was just fun. So I just had fun. I was athletic. I got into drama, so I was an actress on campus, especially in high school. That's when I really started to shine, because my dad retired and I ended up being in one school for the entire time. That was my first time ever being on campus, from the time I got there till graduation, ever. And I took full advantage of it, being social. So
right.
so I ran track. I became a cheerleader. And as a matter of fact, my cheerleading coach, Miss Raymond, God bless her, you're supposed to have a certain grade point average to stay in athletics, right? Well, I didn't have it. I never had it. I was always a whole point, if not more, beneath it. And I saw her after I became an adult, and I said to her, Miss Raymond, how come you let me stay on the team when you knew I didn't have the grades? And she said, I thought if I kicked you off because of your grades that you'd drop out of school.
Wow.
So you know, she was somebody, you know, there's always somebody there that sees you. But not everybody steps out to say that, because I'd never known it until I became an adult, but that helped me out a lot. And then I became the president of the Future Business Leaders of America. And I don't even know how I became the president. I think because the people liked me, not because I knew everything that was going on.
Right.
But I became, they voted for me to be mayor for a day. And so I became the mayor of Boca Raton for a day, and started seeing all their business meetings that they had to do with the development of the city.
Whoa. Hold up. Let's slow this portion down right here, because when you say get involved in programs, be positive, look for mentors, look for teachers, get involved, be social. You might not be academic, be social. I think that that's absolutely huge. You don't have to be extremely academic, be social, because that balance will take you to a whole nother direction in life. And this moment right here, when you became the president of Future Business Leaders of America, which led to you being mayor for the day, your life was totally different after that. So what was that like? You got to be mayor for the day. What did you get to do?
Oh God, I got to go in their chambers. I got to sit in on council meetings with the commission. So it was fun. I mean, you know, I got to see the back end of the business. Of course, it was only a day, but it was enough to expose me to something that I had never seen before. Right. I mean, literally, I left there not really fully understanding government still, but that one piece, I got something from it. You know, there's always, it's like putting together a puzzle. You're always going to get something if you take it. But this is the thing that I find. We devalue the things that we have. We don't see them as anything. But if you take what you have and use it, it'll take you to the next step and value it, right? So so that happened, and I started having a love for construction and houses. So I used to sneak on all the construction projects in Boca Raton at night when I was like 15, 16 years old, and kind of, you know, see the different construction, the different type of interiors, and so I just fell in love with houses.
Now, when you were in those chambers, did it open your eyes to the bigger reality of big numbers? And what I mean by that is this: when you're a young kid and you're figuring out how you're gonna survive or take care of yourself or get ahead, you might be thinking something like, if I could just get $50 a day, what I would do with $50 a day. You know, there was, and I'm going somewhere with this. I lived in a home one time where our mother used to give me $20 a week. After everything I had been through, I felt like that $20 a week was so much money. I felt like I was rich.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because so, your friends don't have any money, and the people you're around don't have it. You are rich.
Exactly. And the thing is, I'm thinking of small numbers, right? But when you get an opportunity like you did to be in that mayor's chamber and you glance over at his desk and this piece of paper says that this person is getting $1 million, and this sheet of paper says that this person is getting a contract for $500,000, and you start seeing how people are actually transacting huge numbers, and it wakes you up to the fact that, oh, I've got to be much bigger and much better, much wiser. Did that influence you that way?
Well, you know, honestly, I already hated poverty from when I was dealing with the bills in the fourth grade.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the reason why I had to call bill collectors is because I had to tell them we didn't have enough money. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, you know, to say, hey, can you give us, you know, an extension on this, to don't turn the lights off or whatever like that. So that I already knew. I hated poverty. I hated it with a passion. So I started working. Actually, I lied to get a job I became a housekeeper at the Holiday Inn, and I was 13. So I was already working. I started working early, and I started learning different things because I said, you know, I'm never gonna not be employable. I'm always gonna have something that I can exchange time for money. You know,
that makes a lot of sense.
And so at the time, you know, I know a lot of kids deal with that today, but what they're exchanging is not time, it's themselves, and that's not cool.
That's right.
on themselves for money. When I started, I was a housekeeper. I waited tables. I was a hostess at a restaurant. I mean, you name it. But then I also, now this is the thing, this is the caveat too, is I lived in Boca Raton. So Boca Raton at the time, I don't know what their status is right now, and I probably should have looked it up before coming on the show, but they were like, Boca Raton was like the second city with the most rich people in it or something to that effect when I was in high school.
Okay.
And so all my friends were well-to-do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their parents were attorneys or doctors, and they all knew what they were going to do. So they knew that, you know, and then I had friends who just had smart parents who, you know, managed well. Well, we didn't have that. My dad was a soldier. My mother was a housekeeper, and I didn't want to be a soldier and I didn't want to be a housekeeper. I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And that was a problem. That is one of the biggest problems. And that's why I talk to kids a lot, is because I didn't have a real straight plan.
Right.
So I did a whole lot of stuff, which what I didn't realize too was I had an entrepreneurial spirit from then.
I'm hearing that.
You know what I mean? So I knew how to make the money. I knew how to make a business. I know how to, you know, get things done. I know how to talk to people. I can, you know, I'm a salesperson. I've been in sales since I'm 15. When I, you know, went in retail sales. So that ended up becoming the trajectory for me, more so than what I learned at the mayor's office.
What I'm gaining today from Vicki and Antonio is that your personal journey is the one that's going to give you so much value, is going to give you so much insight into your future. Not necessarily everybody else's journey or what's happening in everybody else's buildings. You've got to focus on what's happening inside of your temple, and you've got to be a go-getter no matter what happens in your life. We'll be right back with more of this inspirational story from Vicki and Antonio. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Vicki, how you feeling out there?
I'm feeling great. I'm really enjoying the conversation.
For sure, I am too. So now, as you became high school age and you're transitioning into an adult, what were you thinking and what were you doing?
To be honest with you, Cedric, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yep.
Like I told you, I didn't have a plan for what I wanted to be when I became an adult, and I didn't really have anybody talking to me about that. Because now at this point, my parents had gotten divorced. And I was with my mom, and, you know, she, like I told you, she learned how to read. I think I was in the 7th or 8th grade.
When your mom learned how to read?
Yes.
Did you find yourself helping her?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, and she was the type of person, a great heart, loved people. And again, her connection with people, I think, helped her survive.
Right. Yeah, it did.
Because her parents, like her mother was a sharecropper, you know, so they didn't get a lot in terms of, you know, academics or education or financial knowledge or anything like that. Almost nothing.
You know, that reminds me, when people think of slavery, they think of illegal work that was happening a long time ago, and nobody walking around today was impacted by slavery or the byproducts of slavery. But when you talk about sharecropping, while it's not slavery, it's still grueling hard work for little to no pay. Am I right or wrong?
That's right. And the system is set up the same. You're working for the person who owns the farm, and you're barely making it. As a matter of fact, I pick beans on those same farms.
Right. See, and that's the point. That's the point. Right. And that's the point that I'm trying to make today, is that you are here sharing your story with us, and you were directly impacted by a lifestyle that looked like slavery. So it's still something that we are growing out of today. Absolutely. whether we like it or not. And you were able to catapult your life to a very inspirational extent. So let's talk about that. You decided to take charge of your life, and you got on the tracks of success. How? What did you do?
Well, okay, so for starters, I wanted to be an actress, and but my family my mom especially, she talked me out of going to New York. You know, they told me New York is so expensive and it's so hard to live there, and I would be manipulated, and how the girls that get turned out when so blah, blah, blah. I was so afraid that I decided to go to school in Miami.
Okay.
I went to the local, at the time it was a junior college, but Miami-Dade now is no longer a junior college. So I went to Miami, and I ended up working. Like I say, I always worked in either restaurant or hospitality or something like that alongside working. So I studied radio and TV broadcasting, and ended up getting married. And I was going to change my major to nursing. But when I got married, my husband at the time had a problem with the fact that I had to attend classes down at the South Campus near the one of the good hospitals down in Miami, Jackson Memorial. And I would have to sleep a night on campus, but I had already had my son. Okay. So it was a problem staying out overnight at this to take this one course. So I ended up dropping that, but I didn't feel comfortable not working. Like I told you, I've always worked. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like I needed to contribute to our household, because, you know, it wasn't like my husband at the time was independently wealthy, and we certainly weren't living the lifestyle that I had envisioned for myself. So I knew in order for us to get to the next level, I had to also contribute. That's right. So my godmother gave us money for she gave us money for our wedding and for our wedding gift. And I knew that if I didn't do something great with this money, it was going to end up at the mall. Right. So I decided that we would buy a house. So I used it as a down payment on a house. And the woman who was my real estate agent was terrible. She was terrible.
Why you say she was terrible?
Okay. So for number one, this was the agent that it was. It was the agent whose face was on all the bus benches.
Yep.
Everybody in the neighborhood just assumed that this is her neighborhood to sell, and they would call her sight unseen to sell because her marketing was everywhere. Mm-hmm. But she was not in tune to what I needed, what my needs were. She was not helpful at all. She just wanted to push, hurry up and get me into something. And listen, I felt like I was that kid being pushed by an adult to make a decision that wasn't in my best interest. Right. Like, listen, lady, I'm not a dum-dum. I might not know real estate per se, but I do know how to manage money.
Right.
And I know how to spend money wisely. And what you're showing me is not a good return for my money. So I ended up taking my time researching mortgages, and found out a specific house that I could get with the money that I had. And it was going to be something that I would have to renovate. But what I realized shortly after that, I was like, you know what? I could give better service than she did. I could help people. You know, if people coming in who may not have a whole lot of money, you don't treat them a certain way because the first house they're buying is not going to be the mansion.
Right.
You know,
right.
Because, you know, every home is a mansion, and you treat people that way. Yep. And sometimes you have to, not sometimes, but all the time, when there's somebody who doesn't know this, what you're doing, they're going to be have trepidation. So it's going to be a little more challenging for them to make decisions. So my goal always is to give them the information to help them make an educated decision as they're processing this transaction. Buying a house is not a simple transaction. It's a big deal, especially if it's your first one, especially if you're not financially savvy, you've scraped everything together to do it, you know.
Right.
And you have to be mindful of that and not take that for granted for people. And that's what she was doing for me. So I thought I'd give her a little run for her money, and I went and got a real estate license.
Okay. You said, I'll be back.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? I can do that, and I can do it better.
Hold my coffee. I'll be back.
Right.
All right.
So that's how when I got into real estate. Remember, I loved houses always anyway. I was always looking at houses.
Mm-hmm.
I would always go to open houses and, go to construction sites and all that kind of stuff. So, but again, I didn't have anybody to directly show me how to get there.
Right. Now, can you talk to us a little bit about that process? Because a lot of people, I'm going to speak for myself. I look at the real estate market in terms of if you're a realtor or you own a realty company as a daunting task. To me, it's very complicated, and it's a lot of stuff that's just brain bending for me. There's a lot I don't know about that industry. So can you talk to us about how you got into it? What did you learn? And give us some tips. If anybody wants to get into real estate, what are some tips that they could take away today?
Well, there's a principle in the Bible that says if you help build another man's, God will give you your own. So being a mentee is always a good place to get any information. As a matter of fact, most of my resume is built by internship. I always went to work for somebody else. If I saw that I wanted to break into an industry, I'd go work with them, and sometimes for free, if I could afford it. But knowing about real estate, first of all, there's books you can read. Now everything's on YouTube and Instagram. I would say do a full class, not an Instagram, snippet. But you can read a book. You can work alongside somebody if you're willing to do the work. It's work involved because you're going to exchange your time. Remember, you're getting your time for money. In this case, you won't maybe not get money, but the wisdom that you get can make money. Because certainly real estate, so far in all of the economics, is probably the easiest way to increase your wealth, right now, especially now with the issues going on with our economy. But real estate, definitely, even if the first one that you own is not my first house was not my dream house. Right. As a matter of fact, we had to rip up the floors. I remember being pregnant with my daughter at the time, and I would walk my husband to the door in the morning and be like, okay, don't forget to bring ice, because we didn't have a refrigerator. We lived out of a cooler for a while until we could afford it. We were slowly growing and building. And we renovated that house. We added on to it at some point, but it took years. Things don't happen in an overnight. So, don't despise humble beginnings.
That's right.
As it comes to real estate, you might get an apartment first and buy it. Or maybe partner with somebody to buy. Sometimes, families get together and buy a place and live together, which is smart if you can do that. Or friends. Obviously, you have to have an attorney or the title company that's going to give you an idea of how to, buy it in a way that's going to protect each person. If you're not a married couple, protect your assets. But definitely, you can do that. And the thing too is, which I didn't mention, is that I was separated at some point during this time after my daughter was born. Mm-hmm. And I was just budding in my real estate career. My ex wasn't paying the mortgage. It went into foreclosure. It was going into foreclosure. So because I started studying, I put a tenant in my house. I went to work for a mortgage company so I could learn about mortgages, because I didn't know the details about them, and learned how to refinance my house to make it not go into foreclosure. So, just again, get in the industry, get in it, work in it. Working in anything is the best way for me. That was my thing always, because I knew how I could get a job, and I knew that I could do the work, and I could exchange my time for money.
Absolutely. Time for money. Don't forget about that, guys. That's what we should be getting, is money for our time. Everything that we do, it needs to be monetized.
Yes.
And we have to keep that in mind. So as you can see, the Cash App button at the top of my show frame, that's there to remind me and to remind everyone who associates with this show that we are monetizing our existence. We are not exchanging our time for nothing, because in this day and age, it's irresponsible, and it sets a bad precedent for all the people who put in work before us. Now, one thing that I like about what you're talking about is you were not afraid to get dirty. You weren't afraid to put the work in terms of, getting a fixer upper, fixing on it, using a cooler until you could really change your life. But then once you studied and you stayed true and consistent, you started having some success in real estate. And
yeah.
I'm in my 30s right now. I know that a lot of people, they grow up, you get into their 30s and you might start plateauing a little bit. But you not only hit that plateau, but then you took off again. See, a lot of people, they take off from middle school to high school, and then they kind of taper off at some point. But you said, no, I'm not just going to taper off. I'm going to blast off again. And so you started having success in real estate. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I got actually my first job. I worked with a company that managed HUD houses, which are foreclosures.
Okay.
And so, oh God, those houses, I started selling houses. They were dumps, literally. And I built the beginning of my career selling houses, and the average price point at the time was $69,000 per house.
Okay.
Which was nothing, but I ended up selling a lot of them, and started making some decent money. And then I, ramped it up from there until I was able to feel comfortable and get clients that trusted me selling $1 million homes. Because remember, I'm getting commission on the price points.
Okay.
So the higher the price point, the higher the commission.
So what's the difference between selling a $69,000 home and $1 million home?
There's not a lot of $1 million fixer uppers.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Does it change everything about the whole transaction? I mean, everybody's mentality must be different.
It does. It changes the whole transaction, because number one, you're dealing with different clients.
Right. That's right.
You have a difference from, so your fixer upper, you're either going to attract an investor, or you're going to attract people who are maybe buying for the first time and are just starting out. Right. An investor knows everything, and they're trying to, hustle you and get the best that they can for nothing. And the other person doesn't know a lot, and they're afraid.
Right.
And so there's a different nuance of how you navigate the relationship with them. And because I like to teach, and I like for people to know, and I like to be transparent when it comes to that, I'm not opposed to, walking them through the process. Now, on the other hand, when you're selling a higher end property, there's an expectation of who you are. You have to know, you have to be educated. You've got to know your stuff. You've got to, because these are people who have bought homes before. They have options. They can work with you or anybody else, and they don't have to buy a house in your location. They can buy a house anywhere in the world pretty much if they have that kind of money to spend.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So there's a certain quality of service that you provide for them. There's a certain knowledge that you provide for them. And there's a certain level of patience you have to have, because sometimes you get people of a certain net worth that have lack of patience. They're either busy, they're running businesses. You might not even work with the owner the person buying directly. You might be working with any of their gatekeepers,
right?
Which you have to be okay with and know how to manage all that.
Do you have any tips for people who aspire to get to that level of selling commercial properties? What could they be doing to get ready for that level? Are there any books that they could potentially be reading to prepare themselves for that level of transactions?
Yeah, absolutely. There's all kind. Listen, in the business section of any bookstore, go online and just type in real estate. You're going to get any book you put your hands on is going to give you something. Because again, people, if someone else is leaving you their knowledge, what you find in a book is someone's whole life story that you're going to get in a span of what is it going to take you, a day or two to read?
Mm.
You know, so you're being fast tracked on anything. You know, get a mentor, a coach, go to work for them.
Right. Now, a lot of people, they talk about real estate, virtual real estate, and the state of the market. What is your view on the state of the market of real estate? Do you see it as a viable industry going forward? Does everybody's house need to be torn down? What do you think?
Well, you know, one thing about real estate, it's always going to be a necessity. People always are going to need a place to live. And so it's always going to be required. You're going to always have people that are getting married, people that are having babies, people that are retiring, people that are empty nesting, and that's going to keep the market jiving. You know, if you decide that your place is too small and you need a bigger place, well, it's going to cause you to have to go out and find it. If you own a place currently and that smaller place needs to go because you got to buy the bigger place, that's going to drive the market. So, you know, so those types of things are always happening. Okay. And so far, I don't foresee it going away.
Right.
I foresee probably the changes are usually on how it gets done, not that it gets done.
Okay.
You know, we're seeing a lot of disruption now with different types of companies that are coming on the market. Also the technology. I mean, over COVID, there were transactions that were done when people bought sight unseen.
What's that?
I'm sorry?
What's that mean, sight unseen?
Where they basically had a virtual tour of the house with a camera that they didn't go physically touch and feel it in the traditional ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so technology is going to change a lot of things. It's just a matter of following it to see where it goes. I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I'd say it won't go away, but it will be different for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and get in touch with you to learn more about your products and services?
Well, I am on Facebook. I'm facebook.com/victorious and the letter U.
Okay.
I am Victorious U on Instagram. And for my young people, I'm on Instagram as Mentor of Millennials, which I'd love to have you there. So you can ask me questions. If I'm able to help you in any way, please reach out.
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
I have thought about it. I'd need to have the downtime to do it, which I'm starting to now. I have notes. Listen, I've got notes all over the place. I just have to gather them all around and put them in one place. So yeah,
you know,
I'd love to write a book.
I got one more question in regards to real estate. For those people who own a home right now and they're thinking about selling it, do you have any ideas of what they can do to tack on some more value to their property?
Absolutely. For one, is you want to something very simple. Declutter it. Declutter it so that you can actually see your home. Take out, you know, like if you're preparing to sell, put things away that you're not using. Like if you have a closet, you open and all the towels are falling out, take out 75% of those, box them up and put them in the garage.
Okay.
And it'll make the closets look bigger. The kitchen, same thing, get everything off the countertops, paint, minor things, you know, put the light bulbs in, because a broken light bulb or a light bulb that doesn't work makes the buyer think that you have electrical problems when it's probably a $2 light bulb.
Right.
Don't over improve it, because you're not going to get back everything that you put in it, but make sure that your kitchen and your bathrooms are in good shape.
Okay.
Make sure it looks good on the outside, that the house is painted, that the lawn looks good. If you're in a building, in a condo building, you know, make sure that again, it's not cluttered, the walls are clean, the doors are clean. Fresh paint goes a long way.
Right.
I just want to say real quickly, for anybody who might be listening, because I do know that right now there's economic problems and some people may be having difficulty paying their mortgages. Before you let your house go into foreclosure, reach out to a real estate professional. If you need to reach out to me, please feel free. Even if you're in another state or in another country, I can direct you to somebody in your local area, because you don't want to let your equity go down the tubes. If you have to get out of your house, don't just let them take it, or don't just walk away from it. At least check to be sure that you can keep it, or keep it or sell it yourself and control how you get rid of it. Because that's actually how my coaching company got started. When my real estate company went down in the last economic downturn, I started helping my clients, you know, not going to either go through the foreclosure process successfully or not recover from, from job losses and things like that, because there's always a strategy. It just is not, everybody's strategy is not the same, but there's definitely one for you.
Right. And you don't know what you don't know. So
Exactly.
this information that you're giving today, yeah.
There's safety in the multitude of counsel. If you if you ask questions and get people to, to find out the answer, you'll find yourself in a safe place.
Mm-hmm. And so that everybody knows, you rose into the top percentage of real estate agents or real estate professionals in your area, top 1%.
Yes, and it also because of the companies that I worked with, the also educating myself. I went to the graduate real estate real estate institute to learn how to do business outside in foreign countries, to deal with other nationalities of people. Because listen, I didn't want to just work with my people like me.
Right.
I want to get to know people and work with other nationalities, other cultures, other demographics, whether it be financial or social or whatever the case might be, and to expand my sphere of influence. And expanding your sphere of influence is how anything gets done successfully.
That's right.
Because people are treasure in earthen vessels.
We always think about, and when I say we, I'm usually talking about myself and those who might be able to identify with what I'm talking about. But I always think about buying homes here in America. But I don't always think about buying homes outside of America.
Oh God, that's huge. I'm talking to a friend right now who plans on retiring in another country because the price points are lower and his retirement will go further.
How does that work? How does that work? How does that work? Do I call Vicki Antonio or like?
You can.
Okay.
I can direct you. I can direct you to where to go for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, there's people that are going to Central America, South America, Europe, depending on what your budget is. It's all about your budget. You can live anywhere in the world.
Wow.
I mean, I recommend living in places that aren't safe, obviously, but you got to think of political climates. But for the most part, America has relationships with a lot of countries outside of here that govern themselves similar to America. You think of Panama. The Panama Canal was there for so many years. The military was there for so many years. The culture, some parts of the area, the culture is very American. Costa Rica, yeah.
That's a really big subject area right there that can really be considered by a lot of people. Can you be looking at real estate in Costa Rica, South America, Africa, Europe, someplace else? You probably could. And how much more interesting would that make your life after the whole journey that you've been through to just get a peace of mind somewhere outside the States? That would be phenomenal.
Yeah. Like my goal right now is to get a flat in Germany.
Okay.
I have family there, and I used to go every year until COVID.
Right.
But I'd like to have a place there so that when I go visit my family, I don't have to stay in a hotel or at their house. I can have my own place. So yeah, you listen, if your budget goes there and if you can dream big enough, you can do it. Just got to put a strategy in place.
That's right. What is survival to you?
Survival to me is just making sure that I'm good, like mentally and emotionally, because my current, like the situation, like my living conditions, those are temporary. But if I'm mentally and emotionally sound, then I can live another day and be able to make it beyond where my circumstances for the moment.
What is success to you?
Success is having love in your life, your family, having a good family, having good character, having integrity, and everything else from there can grow. I think that's the fundamentals of success.
What is greatness to you?
Greatness, I think, is leaving a legacy. Leaving a legacy, whether it be in your children or in someone else's children, so that someone else can pick up where you left off. You can hand the baton, and someone can take your whatever it is that God gave you to leave in the earth and leave it behind.
Wow. Vicki, I want to let you know that I've listened to your journey today. I was interested from the very start when you said that you were born in Germany. I love how you were an overcomer. You went from one chapter in your life to the next almost seamlessly. You kept going. You kept hustling. You kept figuring it out. And I think that speaks a lot toward everybody today. I want to give you your respect while you're still living today. And everybody out there, get your crown emojis ready, because I want to give you a crown today while you're still living as well. I want to let the world know, and I want to let you know, Vicki Antonio, you are America's next motivator.
Thank you, Cedric, so much. I'm so appreciative of it. And you know what? I'm going to wear my crown well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Please do. Please do. We got crown emojis coming into the building for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by today, all right?
So listen, if I can help in any way, please reach out. It was a pleasure talking to you today. God bless you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you've got to do is stop by and pick it up.